Right, welcome back. Thanks for joining me on this little ride. Roads are seriously dodgy. Well, I say that, I think to any normal motorcyclist that rides all year round, they're fine. However, I'm not actually an all year round rider anymore. I'm the old fair weather rider. I used to ride all year round, commuting to work and back every day. Doesn't matter if it's, you know, really cold or if it's yeah, kind of wet, which is horrible to ride in. Anyway, so yeah, so road conditions I'd say today are a little bit slippery because it's cold-ish and it's wet, damp roads, but for me the riding conditions should be okay because the sun's out. So like what I'm saying is I'm not going to get wet from rain hopefully today. The only problem is my bike's got a tail tidy, and if the roads are wet or if I go through rain, then the back of my jacket gets absolutely soaked and not very pleasant. I've got the original thing that like arm thing that goes around the back of the wheel that's got a tiny little mud guard on it, which so I could put it back to standard, but I've just like left it as I bought it, and I just couldn't be bothered to set it back up because what's been fitted looks way better. And as I only really ride in the summer these days, I thought, yeah, well, you know, we'll leave it as is. Plus, you never quite know what the previous owner's done to the wiring. I'm hoping he hasn't bodged that up or whatever, and I can actually put it back to standard. So anyway, yeah, I want to give a little review of the FXCNC steering damper that I fitted about a year ago. So this is, I guess, a year on review, I suppose, which I guess is better than just 2 days old review. But yeah, we are actually, that's what I should mention, we are actually the 2nd day of January 2023, and I keep reminding myself it's 2023 because I know that for the first few months I'll end up slipping back to 2022 when I'm writing down, filling out a form or speaking to someone. But yeah, so 2nd day of the year, out again. I was out yesterday, New Year's Day, for a nice little ride, Sammy Miller's Motorcycle Museum. Nice little ride in that, and I thought I was going to be late because it was supposed to start at 10, and I guess I left after 10, but when I got there I think I was still one of the early birds-ish, because also I did a little walk around after I'd parked up. I walked around to show the bikes that were there, but after I finished filming, loads more bikes turned up and it got a lot more busy. So anyway, yeah, 2nd day of the year, out for a blip through the forest. No heroics today, partly because this video will end up on YouTube, and partly because, like I said before, the road conditions aren't favourable to my skill set. If you're used to riding, like say every day of the year, you'd be absolutely flying around here. But for me, I'm like, you know, cold roads, cold tyres, wet, I'll just take it fairly steady. I mean, this bike that I'm on, the MT-09, is absolute beast. It's the biggest engine bike I've ever owned. But I used to have a GSX-R 600, which obviously is a bit of a feisty one. But this is just different. This is more obviously bottom end gruntiness. It's almost like going from a petrol car to a diesel car, I suppose. And so yeah, this one's just an instant ripper. You know, you open her up, bang, she's gone. Whereas the Gixxer was more like you had to wind it up, so you could ride it around town or wherever actually really tamely, and it was really nice because you just kept the revs down and it was actually just a joy to ride around town. Everyone says, oh, it's going to kill your wrists, but back then I was riding it every single day and I was alright. Nowadays, yeah, it'd kill me. But anyway, right, rambling on as I do on my little rides. That's the purpose, I guess. Get me out on the bike, get me getting out of my head what I'd normally just be saying in my head. I'll just be talking now, because obviously I've got this sort of way of filming it, which I never had before. So yeah, yeah, I would normally be thinking all this stuff, I guess, as I'm riding along, but now I'm obviously gassing. But anyway, so yeah, like I said, I'm rambling on, so we'll get back to what I was originally going to, one of the things I was going to talk about on this ride. So yeah, the FXCNC, and if I got that wrong, I'll probably put a comment in my description of the video, because I have fitted this a year ago and I can't see anywhere on it any writing to tell me what the make is, but I'm pretty certain that it was the FXCNC one. Now I think it's made in Taiwan, not China. However, the price of it is really cheap, and being from that kind of part of the world, like I say, I mean, Taiwan I believe is kind of a bit better quality than China, although China, you know, they make iPhones and stuff, so obviously they can do quality, but you know what I'm saying, in general terms, and when it's a cheap value item, it's kind of, you're going to assume, or potentially assume, that it's going to be rubbish. So yeah, so I bought it thinking, well, we'll see what happens. And I think it was about 80 quid, but obviously I don't know, and you'd have to check what current prices are anyway. However, the alternatives, like I looked at an Öhlins, it was mega bucks, you know, and the thing I didn't like was the fact that on the Öhlins, let's see if this guy waits what he does. Very happy days. Yeah, on the Öhlins it had this horrible, like, big anchor point for the steering damper, which had to be bolted down around the filler cap, so using those little bolts that you've got around there. But it just sort of, like, you know, I mean, I know you're buying something that's going to work, as in you want the performance of the steering damper, but you also don't want to ruin the look of your bike too much. So I kind of thought, Öhlins, no, it's A, too expensive, B, didn't like the design. I looked at another one, which I think was called something like, it might have been GDPR, or I can't really remember what it's called, but it's the one that's quite, I would say, quite famous. Like I say, you'll have to check what the actual name of it is, but it's like sort of small and compact looking, and it doesn't have this long arm type thing that mine's got, which goes in and out the piston, you know, that creates the damping. I can't remember how it works, but yeah, they look really cool, and they're an American company, and I looked them up for my bike, and I could get a nice steering damper for it, but I think they're about £400, and I'm just like, you know, that's such a lot of money. Well, it is for me anyway, perhaps it's not for my viewers, but anyway, so yeah, I thought £400 or 80 quid, right? And I thought, well, you know, I also watched some YouTube videos of guys showing how to install it, this, that and the other, but it's real basic. You probably don't really need to watch those videos. Well, I watched them, so I guess you can watch them, but once you got the stuff out of the box, you could kind of figure it all out anyway. Although it doesn't come with any instructions for installing it. But yeah, so they were reviewing them and saying, you know, they were okay. They were kind of happy with what, you know, performance that the item gave them. And I suppose maybe they were thinking, well, for 80 quid, doesn't really matter if it lasts me 2 or 3 years or 20 or 30 years. Maybe they're not, you know. But the thing is, even those other ones, those, like I say, those GDPRs or whatever they're called, GPS, you know, you read the reviews on them, and they're £400, right, or $400 or whatever they were when I was checking. Like I say, don't quote me on prices. Anyway, they're expensive, and you hear these reviews saying, well, the seals keep going. So, you know, I'm kind of thinking, well, you're spending that kind of money and you're getting a product that, you know, you're going to have issues with. I don't know, I just think that's a bit, you know, it's not great, is it, when I can buy an 80 quid junker that actually, you know, after a year it's holding up fine, you know. So anyway, so I fitted the thing and I went for my first ride, and I kind of like was going to take it off, I was like, oh my god, that has changed the way this bike handles so severely. It's such a massive change that I wasn't sure I liked it, you know. But what I was trying to get away from, the feeling that how the bike was feeling without the steering damper, is it felt to me like a tiny little 125 that's a really lightweight little bike with no steering damper, and it's just literally, you got your headstock, you know, it's just nipped up there on a load of bearings and a load of grease, and so it just wibbles around all over the place. Obviously, I guess the idea is when you're sat on the bike it's not as loose and fluid, but yeah, you know, like I say, I don't know if you've ever ridden a little old school thing, because my first ever rode on the bike was a Yamaha YB100, and that's the 100cc version of the famous Fizzy, the Yamaha FS1E, the 50cc, but it's like the same bike, same frame I think, and same engine cases ish, I don't know, but it's obviously 100cc. So that was my first ever bike on the road, not remotely desirable or valuable, whereas the Fizzy is now worth a fortune, which is, you know, whatever, I sold it anyway, so I guess it wouldn't make any difference whether I'd had the Fizzy or not. But yeah, so what was I going to say about that? Yeah, so when I had that little 100cc bike, like I say, I felt that the front end felt real light, and, you know, just like, don't know, don't feel your confidence, especially when you're up at higher speed. And what I found on this bike, the MT-09, I mean, it's a heavier bike, obviously a much heavier bike, being much bigger and all the rest of it, than the little 100. But what I found is, when I was on the throttle, when I was really ripping it, yeah, I found that it went light on the front end. I didn't like it. It was like sketchy as hell. It was like, you know, you were, oh hello, what's matey doing? Oh, he wants me to go by. That's good, thank you. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, so you know, you'd open her up. This is the MT-09, sorry, obviously I'm flitting around a little bit and me talking. Yeah, it would go light on the front end, you know, and maybe I was sat a little bit further back on the saddle than I was supposed to. You know, obviously it's one long big saddle, although it's got a dip for where the rider sits. You know, maybe I should have been right up on the tank with my balls fucking squishing up there, like, you know, but I was perhaps I was a little bit sat further back. I'm not really too sure. I think I sit where, yeah, I'll say obviously I feel comfortable. But yeah, it went all light on the front end, and it gave me this feeling like, man, I don't want to accelerate that hard at that speed if I'm going to end up possibly having a tank slapper or something similar. Oh, I got a couple of cars here now. It's a narrow little road, isn't it? So yeah, didn't like the feeling of that. So like I say, that was the idea behind the steering damper, because I think a lot of people that see a steering damper, they look at it and they think, oh, he's a hooligan, you know, and they look at your bike and perhaps they think, oh, you know, yeah, he's trying to get that because he's going to be whacking in massive wheelies and all that, which obviously these bikes, the MT-09s, are renowned for being a bit wheelie prone. However, I'm not a wheelie king. Again, I've never honed that skill. I'll wheelie a push bike, I can't really wheelie a, you know, I did try, I had a Husqvarna once, tried wheeling that bad boy, but no, it's not really my thing. But so the, like I say, the steering damper isn't for that, although I gotta admit, that's when steering dampers are invaluable. If you ever want to get into wheeling and you don't have a steering damper fitted, I would be a bit concerned, because like I say, I've done it before, accidentally pulled away, front ends go up, not massively high, just, yeah, can you move over a little bit, mate? Jesus fucking Christ. Anyhow, yeah, so the wheel come up, and then obviously when it went back down, it was slightly on the piss, and this then meant that, yeah, you know, it just scares the hell out of you. So with the dampener though, it instantly takes that wobble out. It just, you know, the way, oh hello, this prick's right over as well, isn't he? Yeah, the way a good one works, so the one that was on my GSX-R, it was fitted as standard. It was the, you know, I had a K3, so it's 2010, I think it's 53 plate, whatever, but so they came as standard from the factory, so they weren't nothing special, they weren't Ohlins, they weren't nothing. I mean, again, I had no make on it, so I'm unsure who made it, but the way that one worked was superior, I would say, to this FXCNC thing, because this one, it's got an adjuster wheel on it where you can adjust the amount of dampening, I suppose, whereas the other one on the Gixxer didn't. It was literally, you know, it's just set up and it is what it is. But the good thing about that was that when you weren't sort of like shocking the system, when you weren't moving the bars super quick, it was no resistance. You could just turn those bars silky smooth, yeah, like no problem. But as soon as you went to try and yank the handlebars really fast, so let's say you're getting into a tank slapper type environment situation, it instantly had huge resistance and stopped that from happening. So I really liked that. I thought that was superior. You know, I liked the way that if you were just, you know, moving your bike around, parking up or whatever it might be, and your bars have got no resistance, they're just nice. But this one's different. Like I say, this one you've got the little adjuster knob thing, and you set how much damping you want to have. So again, that's something you got to play with when you get one of these and you install it. Play with that and see what you're happy with, because again, everyone's personal taste, you know, it's all different. So you need to figure out what you're comfortable with. All right. No, that's going to be a pain for me to cross this way by the looks of it. So anyway, right, what was I going to say about that? Yeah, so obviously you set it up. So I went out initially with it not tensioned up at all. I just had it sat at like the minimum amount of adjustment, so minimum amount of friction, tension, resistance, whatever you want to call it. And right, I'm going to cross here after this lot, get out of my way. And yeah, that I guess it felt, yeah, like I say, it did still give me that instant, like say, wow, this has changed the feeling of my bike completely. So so it must have been doing something, even though it was on the minimum setting. But I've then adjusted it up a little bit. I can't remember how many turns or, you know, how many notches I've gone round. But yeah, I did find that it needed that little bit more. Lights are out of action. Some sort of lights going on there. Yeah, I did wind it up a little bit more, give me a little bit more resistance in the end. I think it's because I was testing it out at high speeds. Thank you. And I was finding that, yeah, it could do a little bit more on the old adjustment there. I'm going to try and nip past this car, I think. So yeah, I did adjust it up a little bit, but like I say, some people adjust it right up. You know, they probably have, whoa, some bumps down here. Yeah, they probably have it tension right up. And general advice from what I saw was that if you're going around town, have it set fairly low. If you're going on the motorways, then you want to kind of wind it up a little bit, I guess, because you'll be predominantly going in a straight line, and yeah, you'll be at higher speeds. But I don't do that. Mine, I've just set it to where I'm comfortable with. I just leave it at that for fast or slow. It's, yeah, I'm happy with it for now. That's how I adjust it. But like I was kind of saying about how when I first fitted it, I jumped on the bike and it made the bike feel totally different. Like I say, it went from having that real wobbly sort of light front end sort of feel, right, to I don't know how to put it. Like I say, I think I felt it was like it had this resistance, and yeah, perhaps it just felt like I couldn't feel as much, because obviously when it's loose and wobbly or whatever, but you're feeling everything, aren't you? You're feeling absolutely every single thing. So yeah, I wasn't sure on it. Like I say, I was like, don't really like this. And now, obviously, I wouldn't ever remove it, I don't think. I guess it just took a little bit of adjustment, getting used to the new way it's going to feel, and then, like I say, I ended up actually increasing the resistance, if you like. But yeah, because like I say, the previous damper I had on the Jigsaw, it didn't, like I say, it didn't do that. The initial free play and movement was superb. It was just without, you know, and then like I say, but obviously then as soon as you got any kind of wobble on, or whatever you want to call it, then it kicked in and helped you out. Yeah, I did notice a little bit of oil that had seeped out on the that bar, like I say, the kind of like the piston that runs through. So I guess my seals are leaking slightly, but I've wiped it off, and then like I say, it hasn't really come back too bad. I think I saw a little bit of oil on the post, on the bit that it mounts to, which is weird because obviously there's nothing there to leak, you know, so I guess maybe it's just tracking down from the other bit or whatever, I don't know. So yeah, so that was all good. And the only thing I would say, and again, I don't know if this is just something to do with my particular bike, but you know, again, these bikes are mass produced and they're all exactly the same, so I don't know, I'm not sure. But anyway, when I mounted it, there was a big height difference between where the end of that arm that I've been on about, the end of that arm, where that anchors. So there's a big height difference between that and the kind of bit that you bolt onto the bike that provides that sort of pivot, not the pivot point, but like the anchor point. Yeah, so I've just whacked a load of washers in there, which doesn't look very good, and I had to use a longer bolt as to the one that they supply me. But if I'd have fitted it as they gave me the bits, if you like, it would have just looked a bit funny. It would have still worked, but the cylinder, the piston, the thing would have been all drooping down like totally on the piss to the bike, and I just felt that would look gash, and maybe it would have hindered the performance a little bit as well. And maybe where it kind of bolts, where the clamp goes round the piston bit, you know, whatever, I don't know what you call this stuff, anyhow. Yeah, the anchor's in the middle of the bike. That obviously has to swivel, that has to rotate a little bit as you turn the bars. So I kind of thought, well, again, I thought if I mounted it as they gave it to me, and that was all, you know, angling down funny, then yeah, it may have affected that part of the thing as well. And you know, I don't know, I read a few reviews about these bolts coming undone, so I was pretty concerned about riding along and then finding that the steering dampener things all come off loose, because you remove one of the bolts, I think it's a bolt that pinches the headstock, so sort of like, I guess it's from the yoke, and I wouldn't want that coming undone, because like I say, then, you know, I think there might be something else holding it, so you might be alright if it did come loose and fall off or whatever. But I have used Loctite, some sort of thread lock on there, as again kind of advised via YouTube, guys that have had these same kits, fitted them and had problems. So that's where the old YouTube is really good, because you get real life people's experiences and real reviews of products rather than, you know, biased ones or whatever. So yeah, that was cool to find out that maybe, you know, not everyone's going to do it, because Loctite, I guess, you know, people might think, oh, I don't want to put that in there, won't be able to get the bolts out. But you can heat up Loctite, thread lock, whatever, and it releases off. So I've never found it to be irreversible. You can always get the bolt back out. So anyway, yeah, so that's the only alteration that I had to do. Yeah, the rest of it clamped on okay. The only thing that was a slight niggle, I suppose, and I could have put some washers underneath to prevent this, but where that metal bar, the kind of L-shapey, it's not obviously, but the one that's got an angle on it that gets bolted down through the top handlebar clamps, where that bolts down, it's slightly digging into those handlebar clamps. So yeah, it could have done with something like, say, just slightly I'm just getting blinded by the sun here. Anyhow, be alright. Yeah, it could have done with, like I say, that being machined slightly differently, so that was mounted slightly higher. But like by the time I realised it was going to, because it's such a close fit to being perfect, I didn't. Yeah, I just sort of bolted it up, and then I noticed it bedded down into it ever so slightly. I haven't ever taken it off to check how it's damaged the paint, but I decided just to leave it. As is, rather than, like I say, putting any washers in there. But yeah, that was the other thing, like I say, that you might want to modify or play with. But that again comes down to an element of personal preference, you know, what you think about stuff. And like, but my issue was, the reason I thought about putting the washers in there is what I like to do is fit something to a bike, but be able to remove it in the future and nobody knows that I've had something fitted there. I like the concept of having something that's a bolt-on, bolt-off item, because I'm currently restoring an old Veloset. I might have said in some of the other videos, I don't know, and yeah, I've obviously got plenty of YouTube videos with some of my Veloset. I've got a couple, so anyway, but yeah, I'm not too keen on finding modifications that have been done in the past that are then butchery, that cannot easily be reverted. Good example of that is on the classic Velo that I'm restoring. So the bike was originally made and intended to have a hand change gear system, and then, hello Mr. Magpie, but then with the invention, and I'm pretty sure Veloset, invented this invention, some others might claim different, but Harold Willis Positive Foot, gear change system. So he invented this foot gear change system thing, and that helped Veloset winning the Isle of Man TT in those years, I believe. So anyway, so the previous owner to me on that bike had obviously decided they don't want the hand change anymore, which is understandable, and they'd fitted a homemade version of a Willis Foot Positive stop foot change gear shift mechanism. So when I got the bike, I had to make a decision, do I try and source an original Harold Willis Positive stop mechanism? They're really hard to come by, therefore they're then expensive, but that's okay. With restoring those sorts of bikes, I take that on board. I pay whatever the current market price is for parts, whereas a lot of older people that have had those bikes in the past, they remember selling those components for like 5 or 10 quid, and they're now 600 quid, and they refuse to pay it. I'm not like that. I realise that if that's what the demand is, and if that's what the price is on eBay, it's an auction, it's going to sell for what it sells for, and I just, I'm happy to pay that price. So yeah, I had to look into it, but I couldn't really find any decent ones for sale anyway. They were just too rusty and corroded, and the internals would have been knackered and stuff like that. And then the guy that I left the bike with to restore it, who I won't mention, but I would never ever use again, and all the rest of it. But anyway, that guy, he advised me to go back to a hand change system, and I like to keep my bikes as original as possible. And when I bought that bike, I managed to get the factory dispatch records for it, and so that I think would have indicated whether it had the upgrade to the positive stop foot change, and it didn't mention it. It did mention the fact that it had an AMAC carburettor with a twist grip, which again was an upgrade, because previously and around that time all bikes had the twin lever system, which I suppose on the one hand it's pretty cool, because you could set the speed you want and then you could just take your hand off that side of the bar, whereas we're all used to having to hold on to the right handlebar. But I've never ridden with a twin lever, and I feel that, well, I guess hand change is going to be pretty bad, but yeah, I don't know. So anyway, but luckily for me, like I say, my bike was originally bought with the twist grip, which everyone else wouldn't give two shits about that. They would just change it to twist grip because it's by far the easier option, I guess. Anyway, but because it didn't mention the foot change thing, I think that's another magpie out there. Good afternoon, mate. Yeah, so I felt like I would go back to a hand change mechanism, but I then discovered, because it's underneath the tank on the frame, there's supposed to be like this, it's you know, the frame, it's like, I guess you call it casting, but it's a part of the frame that's got a hole going through it that works as the pivot, fulcrum, or whatever, I don't know what it's called, but the bit where the hand change gear lever mechanism gets bolted to, let's just put that. And the previous owner just hacked that off, yeah, just get the old, oh mate, millions of cyclists, do not fucking pull out. Thank you, you know I am a cyclist myself, I've got nothing against them. Yeah, so he just hacked it off, because obviously he changed over to the foot change, and I guess having that part on the frame, I don't know, maybe he thought it added a bit too much weight, even though they're a nice light little 350cc bike. So yeah, I'm not keen on, like I say, any modifications to get done that then cannot be rectified. So in the future, for the next owner, you know, you get a lot of people that want stuff absolutely stock, absolutely standard, which I'm more or less like that. Well, you know, I fitted this dude down below, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, so obviously, like I say, that little bar that gets bolted down to your handlebar clamps on my bike, they did dig into the paint ever so slightly, and like I say, that isn't great, but you can make the choice. You can either put some washers under there, you can ignore it, you know, whatever it might be, they make, right? Yeah, so other than that, like I say, it was a real easy, hassle-free fitment, and I would recommend it. So I know I've been going on in this video for a long time, but obviously I'm hoping that actually the people watching this video are enjoying the scenery. I mean, I've just ridden through the New Forest, I'm still in the forest. Yeah, it's a fantastic location to ride bikes in. There's more traffic today than what I was expecting, which is really annoying, because well, I can't be doing much on a video like this anyway, but yeah, I was kind of thinking that you know, like New Year's Day when I went for that ride yesterday to Sammy Miller's, I was expecting again that it would be like nobody on the roads, you know. However, there was a bit more cars on the road yesterday than what I was expecting as well, but today it definitely looks like there's quite a lot of traffic, and I'm assuming it's the day that everyone's having to get home. They've gone and visited family, now they're on their way home, getting ready for starting work tomorrow. Fantastic, that's me as well, yeah, great, let's start work again. You know, it's nice to have the break, so you can't grumble, just speak of this rumbly shit here. So yeah, I would highly, like I say, I'd highly recommend this steering damper. Now yeah, let's just slightly move on to a different topic, the gloves. So I'm wearing, like I've said before, I'm sure many times, these lovely Rukka FIennes. Now in the previous videos I'm going to have to contradict myself here now. So I'd been saying in other people's reviews they'd said that these gloves are not necessarily the warmest out of the range of Rukka, and that concerned me, because like I say, my whole entire remit was to get the warmest gloves possible, because I don't want to go down a road of heated grips and heated gloves, just because I've never had them in my life. It's like I've never buy a moped, I mean, you know, like a scooter. I don't like scooters. There's nothing wrong with them, they're amazing, probably commuting vehicles, and when you're in Europe like France and stuff, they're everywhere, and they have really big engine ones, and they have all the big handlebar muff things that guard your hands from the wind, and you know, they look great. They're a little thing over your legs to stop the rain and shit getting all over you, so they're actually pretty cool items, but I just don't like them. I like a geared bike, it's just what I've been brought up with and whatever. So it's the same applies for the heated grips and the heated gloves. Don't want to go down that road, even though I'm guessing that's the only way to cure cold hands in winter. But like, also because I have become the more summer, the more fair weather rider, it's not as important for me to get it. But the point is, in the previous videos, the temperature's been 9 degrees, and then I found out that yesterday when I was riding it was probably 12, even though by the time I got home it was 11, but I think it might have hit 12 degrees. So it was 11 or 12 degrees in yesterday's ride, and I was still singing the praises of these gloves, i.e. they were just super warm, couldn't feel any wind chill, happy days, right? But today I can feel the wind chill, and I can feel my hands getting cold. So I've got to confess that yeah, previous reviews may be misleading, although I did always disclose what temperature it was that I was riding in. So actually, yeah, it was never like I was never portraying a video saying, oh, you can go out there and ride in -2 degrees, you're going to be absolutely fine. So today it's 7 degrees, it might be 6, but I think it's 7. So 7 degrees today, and I can, like I say, I can start. I didn't feel it at the start of the ride, and I can't really feel it much in my left hand, but I can feel it in my right hand a bit. My right hand's the one that has the problems. It goes numb, and I can't even feel the throttle, which is, like, you know, not great when you're an avid, obsessed, mental case motorcyclist. You know, knowing that you might not be able to ride bikes in the future is obviously depressing. So I'm hoping that never happens. I'm hoping that somehow I think you know, I've had an operation in the past which affects the nerves and blood flow to that hand have been previously damaged and all the rest of it. So, but I'm now kind of pondering if I might have carpal tunnel as well as a new issue to deal with. Just because of where the numbness kicks in, it generally tends to kick in the index finger and the next one along. And from what I'm sort of, I know you shouldn't really read on the internet and diagnose your own problems if you like, but going to see a GP, I can't be handling that either. So yeah, I have had a quick look at it. It's possible carpal tunnel, and of course the industry I work in, loads of people I know have also had carpal tunnel, and they've also had white finger and all the other problems that I am affected by, because we just use vibrating tools on a daily basis. So that's unfortunately a sad part of life that, you know, when I started my career in that industry I never had any idea about that, and even to this day certain doctors and GPs almost want to deny its existence. Certain GPs and stuff, they're like, oh, white finger doesn't exist, you know, blah blah. Well, it obviously does, 100% does, and it is 100% related to vibrating tools. Anyway, yeah, so the Rukka FIennes, they are really nice gloves, you know, they're quality. But what I was looking to buy instead of that was some Halvarsons. There were Halvarsons, oh man, I can't remember the name now because they're always like Swedish sounding names. I presume they are either places in Sweden or whatever. So yeah, I wanted some of these Halvarsons, which would have been a lot cheaper. Not sure why this matey slowed right down. So yeah, so they would have been cheaper, but they offered the same thing. They had leather palms, same, I think it's goat leather, or yeah, I think it's goat leather, but it's, again, whatever they say is the best leather to have from the point of view of feel and strength and all that and whatever. And then it's that Gore-Tex-y upper. So yeah, so the other ones, the Halvarsons, yeah, like I say, they were cheaper and they look really cool. I loved them. I loved the look of them. Like I say, I was only going by the way they look, I guess, and the reviews. And I've got Halvarson and other gloves that, yeah. So yeah, and I went on Moto Legends, which is a really nice website, and the guy on that, the guy that reviews them, he calls himself the chap in the cap, and quite often he says the twat in the hat, and you know, whatever. But every video he's always got his little hat on, like a Henry Cole type floppy, you know, flat capper sort of thing. And he gives these reviews on every single product that company sell, and they're really good reviews. You know, I know that's his job, and maybe he owns the company or whatever, but he does give some really good reviews, and that's important because, like I say, when you're buying and spending a lot of money, and I don't really replace my bike gear that often. I often let it run for quite a long time because, you know, you buy stuff that isn't going to wear out, and it's good quality gear, and it's leather, and leather is, you know, very durable. So yeah, so in general I don't actually upgrade that often, so I like to, when I'm finally coming around to upgrade it, like years and years later, I like to have those reviews. So yeah, so anyway, these other ones, like I said, the Halvarsons look great. I ordered them, they said they're in stock in my size. Then I get the email saying they're not in stock in my size, they've made a mistake. And they said you can either wait till, I can't remember when it was. It was a long way off. It was like 2 months in the future, might even be 3 months, can't remember. They said you can either wait till then, or we can refund you, or they said something like you can, you know, see if there's anything else you want in our range, which there wasn't. And what I would like them to have done is to have said to me, we've made a mistake, we said you can buy these items, you've paid for these items, right? As we don't have them in stock, we will offer you gloves of your choice almost, yeah? So that you know, so that although I only spent, let's say, I don't know what they were probably 100 quid. They might have been around that figure, right? So they were 100 quid. But they could have said to me, yeah, you know, if you want the gloves there that are 150 quid, yeah, that's okay. Because, you know, like I say, it was our mistake on our part. But they weren't obviously whether I didn't try and even ask for that, because I kind of thought, well, it's down to them to offer or not bother, it's up to them, innit? So then that's fine, yeah, as in, like, you know, whatever, they're not interested in doing that. So I said to them, okay, I don't want to wait that long, and I'll have the refund. But the problem is, I then realised that obviously I'd found the Halvarsons on Motor Legends at a discounted price, a nicely discounted price. There must have been at least 10-15 quid off the price of a normal set, and everywhere else I was looking for them, they were all full price. No one else anywhere else had them reduced. So then I'm thinking, well, this is the problem, right? So they've offered to refund me the money because obviously they can't get me the gloves for such a long time, but when I come back to buy them from Motor Legends in the future, I'll be paying full price. So that's what I wasn't very keen on, because I'm like, you know, fair enough, you've offered to refund me because you can't supply the product, but, you know, again, it's like that's the bit that's annoying, because, like I say, obviously I got it at a discounted price, and they said they had, yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so anyway, like I say, I like the Ruckers as well, and there's another mate, Klim. I'd never heard of this Klim, but they seem to be really good, but monstrously expensive. I mean, I think they're like 200 odd quid, or over 200 quid for a set of winter gloves from them. So that put me off. Couldn't really afford them, and I'd never heard of them anyway. And like I say, these ones here, I got them in the Black Friday sales. I got a bit of a discount on them, and I was able to try them on, which, like I say, was the thing that was the done deal for that. However, like, you know, yeah, I had read before that they're not the warmest of Ruckers winter gloves, which, you know, it's really annoying, because before the invention of heated grips and heated gloves, I mean, people had to ride all year round, right? And they must have just had frozen hands all the time, because, you know, it does get cold in the UK, and if nobody, not even Rucker, who are meant to be the best make in the world always, you know, for these sort of products, can give you a product that keeps your hands warm, then yeah, that ain't great, is it? But my hands and feet always suffer from the cold, so again, perhaps other people would be finding these at this temperature of 7 degrees that I'm riding in today. And, you know, like I say, I'm not going on a long ride, and I'm keeping the speed down, so it's actually not an issue to me really, but I can just feel my hands are cold. And I'm going to be yipping it up onto the dual carriageway in a minute, so actually I'm going to pull over here somewhere. I'll pull over when I turn off around this corner, and I'll stop recording. Let me just pull around this corner here, and that'll be me done for today on a little video. So yeah, I know I've obviously deviated away, haven't really stuck to the idea of this video, which was to focus on the steering dampener, but you got to kind of fill the space up, haven't you? You've got to continue. So anyway, right, let me see if I can turn this thing off, and as always, thanks for watching.